Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas joins us now. Senator, as always, thank you for your time. Your thoughts on this transaction? What are you thinking here?
Well, first, I want to praise your farmers out there using cover crops. I sure appreciate them doing that. You know, the farmers and ranchers were the original conservationists, and we need to keep bragging. On the USDA reorganization, look, I'm excited to get government employees closer to the people that they serve. So 4,000 USDA employees here in D.C. By the way, only 6% of them were working in the offices until January of this year, February of this year. So we're going to move about half of those out to the country. And one of those places is Kansas City. And what I'm excited about moving more workers to the Kansas City office is, number one, we get more Kansas City Chiefs fans. But beyond that, they're going to be closer to my alma mater, Kansas State University, Iowa State University, Nebraska, really some of the strongest ag schools in America. And that's going to help populate that USDA program there. In Kansas City, it's agriculture economics they focus on, as well as handing out the grants for agriculture research. So I just think getting USDA workers closer to their customers has to be a good thing. So I'm excited about it.
Well, Senator Klobuchar, who called for the hearing, called the reorganization plan, and I quote, a half-baked plan, and said moving employees out of the Beltway would cause more harm than good. You were in that room yesterday. What did you think of the overall feeling? Did you feel any pushback, or did you see this from others really kind of being on board with this move?
Well, look, I have a great deal of respect for Senator Klobuchar. She's a good friend, but we respectfully disagree. This has been well thought out. The first time I met Secretary Rollins in person back in, goodness, it may have been November, December of last year, she talked about this reorganization. So I think every member on that committee's had a chance to have her come in and talk about this. This isn't half-baked. The Assistant Secretary, Stephen Vaden, former Judge Vaden, International Trade Court judge, is in charge of this plan. I think it's well thought out. And again, I just don't know what American's going to come up to me and say it's not a good idea to move people out of Washington, D.C. I would take 2/3 of the federal officers that are working here in D.C. and move them out to those flyover states. It's just such a different culture here in Washington, D.C. It is the swamp. I just think when you have USDA workers going to church, going to soccer games, going to a Kansas State football game together, that they're going to just have a better product when it's all said and done.
Absolutely, getting that face-to-face time for sure. I want to switch gears, Senator. You recently introduced legislation to help provide clarity for farmers and prevent over-regulation of water features on their property. Tell us about the Clear Waters Act here.
Yeah, think about waters of the U.S. This has been going on since 1972. You get a Democrat president in office, and they expand what water the U.S. is, and we get President Trump in the office. He tries to cut it back. But what our bill does is clarify this and give our farmers certainty. Look, your listeners understand that a pothole, that a pond, that is not a navigable stream. So we clearly define what navigable streams are, that it needs to be a body of water that continuously flows and touches one of those main navigable streams. Kansas only has 3 navigable streams, for instance, that through the years of time. So it just gives us some clarity. But I want to emphasize to anyone on the other side of this that farmers and ranchers are the best environmentalists. Those that are practicing modern precision agriculture are decreasing the drift from their fields by 90%. Using modern day agriculture techniques, we're decreasing 90% of the drift from those fields. But I just want to give the farmers, the ranchers, some very certainty. Our dairy farmers, people that have feedlots, we need certainty in this area. And look, we're going to do our best to take care of the environment as well.
Well, speaking of dairies, I know you announced legislation to end dairy mislabeling with the Dairy Pride Act of 2025. What's involved here?
Well, I think there's a lot of fake products out there, right? And with all due respect to almond juice and some of the other juices out there, they're not milk products. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know why they're in the milk portion of the grocery store. Just like I don't want plant-based protein sitting beside a hamburger born and raised and processed in Kansas. So I think, again, we just want customers to know what they're drinking or eating, and almond juice is not milk. By the way, getting closer and closer to getting whole milk. There it is, whole milk back into schools as well.
Almond juice. I'm going to borrow that, Senator. I know you are thrilled to see the work being done by the administration when it comes to trade deals, the benefits that you're seeing for agriculture. This is some big moves by the administration.
I'm just so ecstatic to see these chickens come home to roost, right? President Trump has used these tariffs to negotiate better trade deals that I hope are going to let our grandchildren continue to work on our farms. Look, we've not sold a cheeseburger to Europe, a gallon of ethanol to England in my lifetime. So beyond just the tariffs, what the president is doing is removing non-tariff barriers. And again, your listeners are educated. They understand what China, what the EU does to keep American agriculture products out of those countries. So by removing those, we're going to sell more and more products. And I just, lots of things we could talk about. But look at President Trump's strategy here, how he's boxing in China. Last night, he announced a deal with South Korea. But beyond that, the EU, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Japan, Australia. Basically, he's boxed China in here. China was doing a lot of transshipments. So they would make, let's say, T-shirts or tennis shoes. They would send it to Vietnam and bring it into this country on Vietnam's tariff levels. Well, President Trump wasn't born yesterday. So he's tightening up that portion. And we'll get that China trade deal soon, hopefully before the fall crops need to be harvested.
Absolutely. They need to come to the table soon. That is for sure. Senator, always a pleasure to have you join us. We do appreciate you always taking the time for us here at RFD-TV. U.S. Senator Roger Marshall out of Kansas. Thank you.